going to stop here and let Andrew rocket you in with the zoom. I'm fairly certain this was the same one that did come past the den earlier. We can assume that it's fairly young because its spots are very dark and black, and its coat looks in good condition. As they get older, their fur tends to become a little bit thinner and their spots become paler. Well, I wonder where it's off to. Possibly off towards the other den. Because the clan that uses the den where we've just been towards uses another den in the direction that this individual's heading towards. And it's not uncommon for them to change up their den sites every couple of weeks or months. What do you know, little hyena? It would be wonderful if it was easier to follow them, but they tend to be less welcoming than the lion and leopard when it comes to following them. I'm not sure why. It's quite a strange one. When we're around the den sites, they're very relaxed with the vehicles. However, when we find them on the roads, they often veer off and kind of avoid us where possible. But it would be wonderful to follow them because I'm sure they would lead us into some interesting sightings with an incredibly strong sense of smell. I'm going to have to position the vehicle so that Andrew can show you, but you can see a very distinctive drag with some tag mark. There's some footprints in amongst the two. Those are hyena footprints. Oh, Andrew. And these hyena, like I was just saying, have got incredibly powerful senses of smell, and we need to try and follow these ones. Even though I think they are going to take us straight to the den site, we will follow through the bush. Hold tight, everyone. Now they can... Because you don't know exactly what it is, we're going to have to hurry along. Everything okay there? Yeah, everything good. Still, only just, we may have lost signal. The antenna came down and now the antenna rope is broken. Leisurely speed while Andrew tries to do some running repairs. All good there, Andrew. Well done. Okay, all good. After driving on the smooth roads of the city for a few days, I guess I've lost track that when you do drive off-road, it can be a little bit bumpy. Sorry, Andrew. Okay. Okay, I can see some flashes of movements up ahead here. It would be wonderful to know what's going on. Hyena will fight between one another and other clan members for food, and I think we might be in the action here. What is going to be going on? I can see a few hyena. I think we might be in luck. What is happening here? Oh yes, I can see a carcass. I can see one of them feeding on something, I think. Just want to get you into position. You can see what it is exactly. This is going to be incredible, everyone. There's a lot of hyena here. Stay on the left there, Andrew. That one's got a kill at its feet. It looks like maybe a baby buffalo or remains of one. So now let's watch closely. All of these hyena, I can count about 6, including the individual that's at the kill. And like I said, I think it's a baby buffalo. That's what would have been dragged across the road. Aren't they such incredible animals, these hyena? Making off with the remains of this, what looks to be a young buffalo. Now, it's difficult to know exactly what's going on, but what we can assume is that this female that is feeding at the moment is probably one of the alpha females, but I don't recognize her. She's in very good shape. She's got her foot caught in the buffalo's hide, so she was battling to walk properly there. But there's a lot of unknown between the hyena we get in this area, and it could be different clans that we're seeing running about backwards and forwards. Going to need to reposition to stay with the action. Well, haven't we got lucky? I really didn't think we would find something that easily. And I think we've missed a lot of the social interaction that would have unfolded with this hyena when they first did come across one another. But I think they've established already who's who and who's in charge, and therefore the others are giving space to the more dominant members of this clan. And this is going to be beautiful. We've got the sun rising in the background. And one hyena vocalizing. Listen carefully. Listen. We're going to get Andrew to point the camera in the direction of the audio so that it's louder. You won't be able to see anything, but hopefully if the vocalization continues, you'll hear it more clearly. Again, it's very difficult to read into. Sorry, I'm going to ask Andrew to whip the camera around. Some things we can't wait for, so we have to use quick camera movements. This is incredible. Absolutely awesome. I think there's about 8 or 9 hyena in this area, and they've moved off from where that one has just gone to smell, and we're going to try and stay with them, keep in the action. That audio was absolutely incredible. It's the closest I've been to hyena making a serious racket. So I'm glad you got to hear that. It's getting a bit thick in here about the route that we take. This is crazy. The kill still keeps moving along. But I think what's going on here is a lot of interaction between wanting to take over from mothers or other generations, but there's certainly a lot of unrest within this clan, and I think they're trying to establish an hierarchy within this clan. There's so many hyena running around, it's hard to tell who's who. Even at the den site, we aren't exactly sure which hyena are which. I've just seen one young sub-adult run past. I think the oldest of the 4 cubs that we do see at that clan. But I'll be lucky to be watching this incredible interaction. Just going to try and creep forward a few meters. I think they have, for the time being, come to terms with who's who and what's what within the clan. Okay, this is going to take a little bit of maneuvering, but we will be there relatively shortly. I think there could be another den site that they use here, which would be really interesting to see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see 5 hyena at the moment, but they are certainly. Let's take a closer look. Listen to those jaws. Been able to answer any questions up till now, but as you would have seen, there's been some incredible interaction. And Edward would like to know, will hyenas use their incredible endurance to try and hunt down their prey? And yes, Edward, they certainly will. Who knows, possibly they did run this young buffalo calf down to the ground, or they may have stolen it. But what they would have stolen it from is hard to tell, because it's unlikely that they would steal from lion in this area that may have been abandoned by lion, because there's not much left on it. So I'm thinking that is plausible. Although they could certainly have caught it themselves. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know? What I'd also like to know is how far has this carcass been dragged already since we saw the initial drag mark of it crossing the road that we pointed out briefly from Scent Trail. Just had an elephant trumpeting behind us. But like I said, this carcass may have been dragged several kilometers before getting to this point, so it'll be hard to backtrack to the original crime scene of where that young buffalo was killed. But as Edward did point out, they are animals of incredible endurance and can run down their prey for many miles at about 50 or 60 kilometers an hour, 30 or 40 miles an hour, so they can sustain a high speed for sustained periods of time. You may be able to hear a helicopter in the background. They're obviously doing some patrols from the air, so don't be surprised if that becomes more audible as the helicopter is heading straight towards us. There it is. Anyway, we're going to keep moving because we don't want to be too far away from the action. Oh, we're going to make it down here. It looks a little bit steep. It's very steep here, so I just want to make sure we don't capsize our vehicle, but this route here should be okay. Andrew just needs to hold on tightly. We got everything we need?
Yes.
Have a great low angle with the sun in the background here. Let's see what we can do. We might be able to get Andrew into a wonderful gap here. No, almost. There's a few bushes in the way. How's that, Andrew? Kind of okay? We've also got a great low angle here, so you should make for some fine shots. Not level anymore. We parked at a bit of an awkward angle here, making it difficult for Andrew to level off the camera. But you do need to be cautious when you do read into those animal behavioral signs, because it is possible that one may hold up its tail feeling like it's in charge when there's no other threats around. But as soon as a more dominant individual arrives on the scene, it would immediately lower its tail. So that's something important to remember. There we go. This individual just lifted up its tail. And it's a youngster. I think it's one of another one of the youngsters. So these two cubs were also little black fur balls not too many months ago. And isn't the sunlight beautiful? And you're getting some really great shots here. Well done, Andrew. So tail up is a sign of excitement, dominance when they are fighting. Look at the steam coming out of its mouth, Awesome. Okay, well, Anne on Twitter, thanks very much. Anne has realized that it looks like all three adults of the three different generations of cubs are here. And that's good, Anne. as we've said in the past, it really would be wonderful to get a better idea of exactly who's who within this clan. But it can be very difficult, but with your help, it certainly becomes a little bit more easy. Wow. Speaking of dominance and who's who and the possible overthrow of a queen within this clan, Mafuta in California, a queen to take over the clan, or would the strongest female within the clan vie for that position? Good question, Mafuta. Interestingly, with hyenas, it's said that the daughters will take over from their mothers, so they are born into their hierarchical position. But you see, they're being very, very cautious of the individual that does have the kill, of the remains of the kill. And again, all this hierarchical behavior is difficult for us to read into, or difficult for me to read into at least. There's quite a few sub-adults that we can also see moving around. These could be males that have come from different clans and are hoping to get mating opportunities with the dominant females within this clan. So that could also be already heightened and excited scenario. I think what we may be seeing here, though, is that they're going back to their old den sites. And won't it be nice to see if it's the mother with the smallest little cub that's the one that's carrying that carcass. With holes in it. And Georgianne in Illinois has also noticed these termite mounds and would like to know if that wasn't one of their den sites. Not that I've seen, Georgianne. They could use any one of these termite mounds that we drive past. But it looks like these are not used by hyena, and they could be heading back to one that they have used more commonly. What the hyena could also be doing is taking that carcass to a little water source where they will put the carcass into water, a small water hole, and that way it comes and skin over time, making it easier to feed on. We're going to try and catch up with the hyena in the front of this clan, though. It's got the kill and it's quite far ahead of us, and we will send you across to James. He's got something that he's been spending a lot of time with waiting.
Good morning everyone. It is a glorious African morning as Viam has just shown you the sun, and while you have been enjoying the marvelousness of those hyenas and their devouring of some fairly, sounds like a nasty tasting buffalo meat, we have been spending the dawn in the company of a beautiful herd of elephants. They're off in some fairly thick bush at the moment, and I don't want to disturb them too much. We may drive in there just now, but they're feeding sort of parallel with the road and very gently sort of eating their way in this very peaceful dawn. It's lovely to have you on board with us. And if you can, if you do hear the odd sound of a helicopter going past, there is a game count going on at the moment, which is a fairly standard thing that they do probably twice a year. It'll be the Sabi Sands game count, and the chopper will fly up and down in a sort of grid pattern, and they'll count all the mammals that they can see from the chopper. So if there is a little bit of disturbance from that, I'm sorry about that. It has been over our heads for the last sort of 15 minutes or so, but has moved off to the east for now. And just remember, any questions or comments, we do love to hear from you. Hashtag SafariLive or questions@wildearth.tv. Anything you'd like to ask, remember there are no stupid questions. There are plenty of stupid answers, some of which I've given myself on any number of occasions, but I shall attempt to answer any questions you have with relative intelligence. Yum, should we go forward a bit?
Yes, please.
We're just going to go a little bit forward and see if we can't get a slightly better view. I'm not going to blast in here just yet. There is a nice clearing just slightly to the east of us now, and I'm hoping they might go towards that. But of course, this time of year, the clearings are only full of grass that is fairly inedible to elephants, and so they'll stick around pretty much in the thick bush, not necessarily showing us their best sides at the moment. The temperature is probably a fairly warm 14 or 15 degrees even, and a bit warmer with the new sun shining on us. And you can see that there's no cloud in the sky, and while you're not looking at the sky right now, you can tell that from the way that the golden dawn light has turned fairly white almost immediately. It doesn't stay that golden color when there's nothing to diffuse the light in the air. Lovely dawn chorus going on around us. Who has managed to catch up with the recently deceased buffalo and its hyena transporters, and we will just wait and see what these elephants do. So I'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. And finally, these hyena have stopped. It's nowhere near the other den site that they use. And the one individual that has carried it quite some distance has now decided to start feeding on it. And there's about 4 or 5 other hyena nearby that are just watching intently, maybe waiting for their turn if they get lucky. So, well, they got a little bit of a fright, so I'm not sure what it is exactly that startled them. And Dr. Debbie would like to know, where is all this action currently unfolding? We are just off Rebecca's Road. Fright they got, I'm not sure what it was from, but it's caused them to carry on moving, so we will do the same. And thanks so much for all the kind words and welcome back messages that you have sent through with all the action that's been unfolding. I've failed to find the time to acknowledge all of those very kind updates and messages. It's Let's just stop here. Hopefully the hyena will stay for a few seconds like that. No. I haven't spent too much time in this area. It might get a little bit thick, but we will stay with them for as long as we can. I fear, though, that this may be hoping to feed on insects that we chase up, and isn't this a wonderful close-up? It's twitching with excitement, probably urging us to go on and chase more insects for it. Just a few meters away from the vehicle as we drive along, keeping us company while following these hyena. But like I say, this area is getting a bit too thick for us to continue following these hyena. It has been great fun. What it may require us to do is a walk in that carcass too. And from this close-up of the fork-tailed drongo, we're going to send you back to James, who I'm told is also in some quite thick bush. So you may have one or two more glimpses of the elephant for you. And I hope you get lucky there. We'll see you later, hopefully with something else.
Hello everybody. We haven't moved since you last saw us. We're in some pretty thick knobthorn bush, but the elephants have come a bit closer to us, so that's really nice. And they're just feeding fairly noisily now, breaking things and eating. Yeah, you know, there's that swelling at the top around her loin region, and she could be pregnant. I don't think she's about to give birth like the matriarch we saw last night. She was much more pregnant, but yeah, that could well be a pregnancy that we are witnessing now, which would be quite exciting. I've never seen an elephant birth, and I really would like to see it. Apparently it is something to behold, especially the sort of celebration that goes on in the rest of the herd as it happens. Well observed, Carol and Dr. Debbie. Dr. Debbie, are you in fact a doctor? So, Patty and Jean, thank you for your comments and your questions while we're looking at these elephants feeding here. You just asked me about my little trip to the Russian Far East, and did I see the elusive Amur tiger? Patty and Jean, I did see one, but it was in a rehabilitation center. It was an injured animal, and it was in a very large enclosure in a rehab center. It's not going to be able to be reintroduced to the wild. They do have some very good programs there, though, for reintroducing tigers to the wild, but this one was injured. They are magnificent beasts. I mean, they are huge, much taller than any of the big male lions that we have here. But really impressive and beautifully colored animals. And then, Gene, I think you asked about birds, and did I see any birds? Yeah, I did, but you know, the summer and sort of winters in the Russian Far East and various other parts of Russia. So not a huge array of birds, the odd wagtail and one or two others, but not a huge number. Very thick sort of forested bush. It's not very easy birding country. But lovely to see some of the familiar African species over there. And particularly astonishing that they can fly there, given how long it took me to get there in a, jet-propelled aeroplane. So I think as the dry season progresses, we will find that these elephants do a huge amount more feeding in the thicker bush because there's very little in the way of greenery around the open areas. Hello, Terry in Santa Ana. A question about age, nice one. Do males or females live longer than each other? I think you'll probably find, Terry, that the females live slightly longer than the males, and the reason for that being that they do live in a herd. They live, so the safety is probably greater in the herd than it would be with the bulls, who often live on their own. And as far as I'm aware, it will definitely slightly reduce longevity. In captivity, I suspect they probably live almost to the same age. I think life is just slightly more violent as a bull elephant compared with a cow. I'm sure you can hear the chopper going over now. It is an important part of sort of conservation efforts in the area to count what's going on. Really need to know the fluctuations and changes in population size. And a chopper is a very effective way of doing it out here during the winter because there's no foliage on the trees, and so it's quite an easy way to count the animals, and they even are able to count things like duiker and steenbok from a chopper there. You have to have a fairly strong stomach to do it, though. I remember being on a game count once, and they eventually had to leave me in the bush because I became slightly nauseous. Hello, James, on Twitter. You make the comment that it was pregnant or trying to get something pregnant. James, that is exactly how it works in nature out here. Breeding is the #1 priority of all animals out here. The second priority being food. A bit like some human populations, I suppose. But certainly breeding is a major priority, and as we go towards the springtime, I mean, we're not there yet, but as we go towards the spring, So there will definitely be an increase in obvious pregnancy in a lot of the animals that we have around here. The elephants are now moving a little bit. They're still feeding. They do like this knobthorn thickets like the one we're in now, because the bark is particularly rich in nutrients. And so, I mean, these knobthorn trees that we're parked in amongst, that you can see probably around us, would normally be fairly straight tall trees, but this is obviously a pretty rich area, and so the elephants have modified the structure of the trees to the sort of fairly, what shall we say, broken thicket. And it's wonderful to hear, they're not doing it now, but it's wonderful to hear the thorns scraping along their skins, sort of leathery, hollow leathery scrape. And, I mean, this is an area that you would struggle to walk through without doing yourself an injury. Just got another elephant over to the left there. It's quite a small herd, I'd say, only 5 or 6 individuals. We can only see 3 right now. See 4. It's always so nice when they approach us rather than us having to approach them. I mean, that's obviously, when I say approach, I don't mean at high speed.
This elephant looks like it's crying.
Ah. Viam's looking at the tears that seem to be flowing from the elephant's left eye there. And I don't think it's actually crying. Thank you, Viam. I think what you'll find is that she's probably got a little bit of an infection, or perhaps one of these knobthorns has hooked her a little bit in the eye. Can you see any others if they're doing the same? There's one actually to the right that's also doing the same thing. Can you see that one there, Viam? Also the same left eye. And the right eye. There. It's quite interesting, actually. I wonder if it doesn't have something to do with the fact that they are walking through this very thick kind of thorny bush, and maybe their eyes get the odd hooks. But their tongues certainly don't seem to mind. I mean, they wrap their trunks and then their teeth and tongues around the most horrendously sharp thorns. A nice comment from Inga, who seems to have witnessed an elephant birth. Inga, you're very lucky if you have. And she just describes it as the elephant falling plop out onto and it being a remarkable sight to see, with the rest of the herd standing around for protection, which is, of course, is what they do. A lot of other animals have to sort of leave the herd and go and live in go and sort of retreat into some thick bush where they can find relative safety. Whereas the lovely thing about elephants is that they protect the mother and any youngster that's given birth to. The young elephant weighs about 100 kilograms, a newborn, which is quite astonishing. I mean, that's a huge mass. And it will stand fairly soon, but they're very uncoordinated. They're not quite like an impala when they stand up, able to run in sort of half an hour. So the herd does need to be very protective of the little one. Okay, so probably about 5 or 6 so far. Hello, Reese on Twitter. Nice question. Hello, Reese on Twitter. Nice question. What areas have the largest populations of elephants? Reese, as far as I'm aware, Chobe, which is probably about, well, I mean, it's an open system, so to say that it's, to compare it with Kruger is difficult, but there are about 60,000 elephants there. And apparently, I haven't been there myself, but traveling along the Chobe River, you are just inundated with thousands of elephants. So if you want to see lots of elephants, that's the place to go. Chobe in Botswana. The Kruger probably at the moment has about 15 to 20,000, I would say. I haven't seen the latest census figures. Viam, can you see the crombec there, just hopping around in the tree there? We very seldom see them quite so easily. There's a long-billed crombec, which is a little leaf-gleaning, insect-eating bird in the knobthorn tree there, with a very short tail, and they're not often out in the open like that. Quite nice to see. He's obviously now hiding. It's actually something of a bird party sort of starting to develop around us. Go ahead, Scott. Okay, copy. I'll go there right now. Thanks very much. Everybody, very exciting news. Scott has just heard that a cheetah's been found around here. Not far from here at all. So I think we're going to try and get out of here and head to that cheetah. I'm just going to find out if I can go there. Lex, do you copy, Lex?